Okay, so welcome to my Druid PvP Resto balance duel guide sort of thing. There's this video that I wanted to make to kind of show how to approach different classes as a Resto balance Druid in a duel setting. So it's not only going to be world PvP kiting or flag carrying in Wars and Gulch, which this class does very well. I want to show you kind of more just what happens in a small duel ring where you have a warrior in your face or a rogue. So kind of what I want to do here is go through very slowly for an hour or so, just nerding out, going through everything that I do. I'm gonna pause the video a lot. It's gonna be one of those slow ones, not for everyone, and that's okay. So yeah, I put some restrictions on myself. I wanted to have pretty bad gear. I didn't want any epics and certainly not any best in slot gear. I just wanted to sort of have random starter gear. I will talk more about that in a second. And also I didn't want to have engineering because not everyone is gonna have engineering, but I let people who I duel will use engineering, of course, because that's kind of life. You will, even if you don't have engineering in the game, you will meet people with engineering and they will use it in duels and world PvP and battlegrounds and everything. So that's just something we have to deal with. Also, it's not about like sick editing and cool music and me showing all my wins and how good I am. It's more about, you know, this was like 400 duels or something, so I wanted to kind of show you both what goes right when I win and what goes wrong when I lose. So I wanted to kind of learn from my mistakes, and I want to show you, hey, this I did there did not work, it cost me the duel, this was what I should have done, this is how you should approach it, and so forth. And I hope that will be helpful for some of new aspiring druids out there that wants to PvP when Classic comes out. So I think that covers most of it. I hope you enjoy, and let's get started. Okay, so as I will show you now, my gear is nothing special, that's the whole point. It's just blue dungeon gear, which you can get pretty easily. It's not a class set or anything, it's just a mix between cloth and leather. I'm targeting stamina, that's the most important stat we're gonna have, along with whatever bonuses like spell damage we're gonna get. Some plus damage on spells is good, but your most important stat is stamina. You're gonna try to stay alive for as long as possible and wearing people down, kiting them, whatever. The damage we're gonna get is from this talent tree. So Nature's Grasp is very important, Nature's Reach, Natural Shapeshifter, and everything that goes down that improves your damage on your Moonfire and Starfire. That's where our damage comes from, so it's very important that we get that. Moonfire spamming is gonna be necessary at times. Okay, so you can see here, nothing in Feral. And then going into Restoration, we're just going down. We need to get Nature Swiftness and Insect Swarm. And then we get some reduced healing time and some stronger buffs and whatever. So pretty much Nature's Swiftness along with Nature's Grasp are the two most important things going on in this spec. This is like the bread and butter of what we're trying to do. So one more thing I just want to mention before we get into the duels themselves is this server. It's kind of a fun server, Retro WoW it's called. And you just log in, you have instant level 60. You just buy pretty much gear from a vendor, starter gear. The starter gear that I showed you. And you just do the raids in kind of a 5-man format where you just get gear there, or if you do some gold grinding or do enough battlegrounds or even just donate to the server, then you actually get gold to buy all the gear you want, everything from starter to Naxxramas gear, which is also why you're going to see some people having very poor gear but extremely good weapons. But that's just kind of how this server works. If you want to come on here and sort of try out yourself with duels, it's a good place to duel. You'll see some people are not that good at the game here in PvP. A lot of people just bought gear and which obviously doesn't make them as good at their class as having to level your class from level 1 and do all the raiding and PvP from scratch and using mods to get good at your class. But that's just how it is. Can't really do a lot about that, but it's a good place to just sort of figure out some classes at level 60 and just figuring out if the class is for you, or just trying to duel, learning stuff like that. So yeah. Okay, so let's do one of the easiest ones first, the warrior. I think warrior and mages are pretty much the easiest ones to beat, but let's start with the warrior. So as you can see, his gear is not amazing. He has a decent weapon, an axe that I think is from Blackwing Lair. It's not amazing, but it's okay. So that's the thing about warriors, that, you know, the better the weapon, the higher they're gonna hit you, pretty much. In vanilla, they are very gear dependent, and pretty much all their damage come from how good their weapon is. Strength and all that kind of stuff also measures into that, but just in a PvP sense, having a lot of stamina and a good weapon is pretty good for a warrior, actually. So what do you have to worry about with a warrior? They have two charges, one called charge and one called intercept. The goal here is kind of to get them into combat before they can use charge, because it has to be used outside of combat. So if you manage to do that, you have one less charge to worry about. The other one, called intercept, is pretty much if you manage to root them first before, or get them into combat and then root them, then they will pretty much use intercept the moment they are unrooted. So as long as you can get away from that, it's pretty much over. They do a lot of damage, and in this duel that I will show you now, I actually don't use Nature's Grasp until very late, and it actually never goes off. So this is more like a direct combat situation. I'm not gonna kite him at all, almost. I'm gonna face him with my bear form. The way I like to open with warriors is actually by doing stealth cat form, trying to get them fast into combat, kind of confusing them so I can cast off my entangling roots. He's trying to line of sight me here because he knows that I'm a balanced resto. So he pretty much knows what I'm trying to do, so he's trying to line of sight me. But luckily for us, it goes off just in the nick of time. Actually, if he had charged there instead of trying to go behind the campfire, that would be a lot better for him and make it a lot harder for me. Especially since I didn't have Nature's Grasp on, but by then I would probably use that instantly. So you root him, you apply Insect Swarm, you Moonfire, Starfire, and Firefire. That's a lot of fire, I know. Let me just walk you through what I'm trying to do here. So the way roots works is that as long as they are rooted, every damage that they get on them has a chance to break entangling roots. You see it says 19 seconds. That will not last as long as I damage him. At one point or another, it's random, it will just break. It's kind of like fair with warlocks. So I do the insect swarm first, because it does no damage on impact. It's just a slow working damage over time, or a dot ability. Then I actually did a small mistake here, which is I should have done Starfire first before Moonfire. It's kind of not really a mistake, because if you do Moonfire first, you have a very low chance of breaking the roots. It can happen, but very low likelihood that will happen. If you do Starfire first, then you are for sure that you will get a lot of damage onto him before the roots break. So ideally, you probably want to go Insect Swarm, Starfire first, then Moonfire because it's instant, and then Fairy Fire if you're going bear form. It's kind of a mixed bag, or like kind of what you prefer, because as you're doing Starfire first, you also have a chance to break the roots, as I said, and then you might have a harder time getting your Moonfire and Fairy Fire off. So it's kind of like whatever you prefer, kind of how do you want to do this. In this duel I obviously went with Moonfire first, but usually I try to do Starfire first, just because I'd rather have the damage from the Starfire than Fairy Fire, if that's the one that suffers. So as he's rooted now, I can pretty much guarantee you that the only button he's pressing right now is, he's just spamming intercept. The moment the roots break, he's gonna intercept me. Note that I still don't have Nature's Grasp on me. I'm pretty much just gonna tank him in bear form at this point. So he reaches me. Ideally now, you probably do Nature's Grasp and then bear form or travel form and just get away from him. By that point, the duel would pretty much be over. Just do another Starfire and Moonfire and he's pretty much dead. But I think I kind of panicked here because he was doing a lot of damage very fast. So I just kind of blew the Nature Swiftness pretty fast. You see there. I went to the bear form. Usually if I'm gonna tank them a longer time in bear, I use Demoralizing Shout so they don't do as much damage. But in this duel it wasn't really necessary. I just have to bash him and get away as soon as possible. He's doing a lot of damage very fast. It's kind of the weapon, I guess, and he's getting these crits. So I bash him, and that's also one thing to note is, you know, orcs, they have pretty high stun resistance. So this was kind of a duel where I got a bit lucky. I should have used Nature's Grasp. I didn't. I took a chance, and luckily it worked for me. So at this point, I don't care about healing or anything. He's stunned. I could also do a Entangling Roots from this point, but one thing you also have to be very careful about is if you're too close to him while you're rooting him, he will just fair you and waste a lot of time. Maybe the roots will break before you're even out of fair, and then it's pretty much he's won the duel. So I just run. I see he has very low health, so I just do 2 Moonfires and he's dead. It was kind of sloppily played by me, but that's just one thing. That's just one way you can do it, you know. Not every duel or world PvP situation is gonna be perfect. But like I said, world PvP, much easier. Just slap on the dots and travel form and he will never catch up to you. But this is a more direct way of dealing with them. So next duel, another troll, or another warrior, sorry. This guy doesn't have good gear, but he has a very good weapon. He probably has the best weapon that a warrior can have until they get to next level gear. And that's kind of just, you know, this server is kind of weird. You can just buy stuff. So he obviously has not so good gear, but he bought a Anchorage axe. So Moonfire, apply the insect swarm. You can see here I do Starfire first. I do Moonfire, he intercepts, I go bear, stun, out, Entangling Roots, and I just won. I did a safety heal in case my root didn't work, but you can see he has way too little health to deal with me right now. Even if he crits, I just pop out and I do a Moonfire. So this guy has the PvP set, and I think he has a decent weapon. Yeah, he has the same weapon, the Anchorage one. So, you know, these guys, if they get to you, they pretty much do a lot of damage. But again, we are very undergeared for this duel, but we're still gonna win. You can see he's just confused. This is kind of what I want, keeping them guessing and confused as to where I am. But this is not the first duel with him, so at this point when I try to root him, it's not gonna work. He's just gonna intercept me very fast. You see? I do Nature's Grasp. So this is the way you should do it. Nature's Grasp. He hits you. So you can see he breaks with Trinket and he uses his intercept right away. We go into bear form. We stun him. We heal ourselves. And from this point on, the duel is pretty much I don't want to say over because he has almost full health and we have half mana, but there's nothing he can actually do right now to close the gap between us. So in a world PvP situation, or even in a duel, if you want to do that, you can just go apply your dots, go into travel form and just kite him. But since it's a duel, I kind of want to take him head on and do it a bit faster. Also worth noting is if you kite him for too long, he's gonna gain his intercept back. And the more we hammer on him, the more rage he's gonna have. So if he reaches up to us at that point, it might be a lot more dangerous, considering we don't have our nature's swiftness anymore. So we know he uses trinket, we just do another entangling roots. And this is what I talked about before. At this point you have to be very careful, and I usually mess this up actually, or I mess it up a lot. Just the range of the fair that they have. It's longer than you might think. So here he got me with that. Luckily I didn't use my trinket yet. Just take it off. Luckily for druids, fair is one of the effects that you can take off with your trinkets. Here you can see I apply a roots upon a roots, and the reason for that is since he already had dots on him when I rooted him and spent some time, I am very unsure about how long those roots are gonna stay up. So I just want to make sure that I can do some damage to him before they actually break. So you can see our starfire will probably instantly break them. Yes, he still doesn't have any gap closers. We could just travel form, but we chose to take him head on with the bear again. Now this is a good situation for us. He has very little health left. We have very high health left. So what I just usually do is just get them like below 1,000 somewhere, and then I just jump out, do 2 moonfires, and that's pretty much it. Of course, you want to be very careful not to do that if you don't have the mana for it. So either you have to innervate, or there's also this add-on you can download that shows your mana bar. I just was too lazy to do it. So that's kind of how you deal with the warrior that's decently geared, good weapon, has the PvP trinket, and actually he got the opener. Still, warriors are easily beatable. As I said, you could also just go into travel form at the end there and kite him, but as you saw, he had his intercept up again. Just how long that cooldown is kind of escapes me at the moment, but it's not that long, so just make sure that he doesn't reach you again. At least if you go into bear form with dots up and everything, you're kind of doing it on your terms. You see the same thing here. I actually tried to open with roots again. I don't know why I did that. Nature's Grasp. He will trinket. You can see he's doing a lot of damage, but luckily I just stun him. I know he uses trinket, I can root him. And at this point also, if you just applied roots and you got away, and there's no chance of you being faired, you feel pretty alright. Don't use your nature swiftness. Just do a regular old heal. Save your nature swiftness from when you're really in danger or feel like danger is coming really fast. There are times that I've dueled, and I don't know if it's a bug or if it's just like that can happen, but the entangling roots pretty much instantly breaks, even though you don't have a trinket. But I wouldn't worry too much about it. I would just do a regular heal and move on. Luckily for druids, they have very good heals. Like the top heal does a lot of it's a very potent heal, so you can see even without the crit, I just filled me right up. I apply my dots again, starfire. You see it almost didn't break that. I wasn't sure how to react. He fairs me, he walks away for some reason. Maybe he was trying to intercept me, because that's the thing, they have to kind of walk away from you to intercept slightly. I just do demoralizing shout and the regeneration thing. It's kind of bugged, it just goes on and on. So actually bear form is actually decent, you know. There's this trade-off, you know. Cat form does a lot more damage, but it's so squishy, so kind of having a lot more health and a lot more armor against a melee character is actually can be beneficial. You don't do as much damage, but you survive longer, you have longer time to react to things, and you just wear them down. You're still gonna do damage, and everything counts. You see, now, since I didn't use my nature swiftness before, it just puts me straight back up to the to full health. Now my nature's grasp is on not on cooldown anymore. We root him, and now it's pretty much GG. So you can see, you know, the whole point of this is just kind of to, you know, you have to utilize your shapes. I haven't even gotten to travel form yet, but just by rooting and bear form, you're pretty good. You can see there he got a bit salty. Okay, so this warrior, this is pretty much a best in slot or close to best in slot warrior, a fury warrior. So if you know anything about the PvP in vanilla, you probably know that the arms spec is superior in PvP because of Mortal Strike, pretty much. So that's an ability that does a lot of damage, it can crit for a lot, and it also reduces your ability to heal yourself by a lot. So it's kind of hard to deal with sometimes. But as a fury warrior, I feel like, especially since he's so geared, the pressure he could put on me with fury was kind of nuts. You know, they do more damage, they do it more quickly. They don't just wait around for 3 seconds until they swing again if they don't have rage. This guy, he just hammers me to the ground. You see the same deal here. Stealth, tangling roots, insect swarm, starfire. This is how you should do it, pretty much. Moonfire, and now you can see I was kind of surprised how it didn't break. Sometimes that happens. It's kind of like a lottery thing. Sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. I don't know the percentages or anything, but when it happens, it's a good day. You can see I instantly apply. Since I saw that, I know those roots are gonna like break any second, so I just apply another set of roots right away to make sure I can keep him there. I do another starfire, and now it breaks. But also luckily for me, the starfire actually stunned him, and that's a talent. So whenever you starfire someone in the with balance talent, it has a chance to stun them. Again, that's kind of a lottery thing, but it wouldn't really matter too much. You can see it, I don't really utilize that too much. He charges, he fares, and since I had Nature's Grasp, he's again rooted. Another starfire, and we just moonfire him down. So we kind of won the lottery there, but he's, you know, he's very geared. If he had another moment to hit at me, he would have demolished me, and in a lot of the duels we did, he absolutely just killed me. You can see I use a lot of mana to do it this way. The better way, especially in World PvP again, just kite him, do travel form, but it's not impossible to win against them at all. I think even without the starfire stun and stuff, I still would have won that duel. Okay, so next duel, this doesn't go so well. You can see this warrior is very geared. He has pretty much best in slot for DPS, it seems, or almost close to. And then he also is the right spec, arm spec, and he has the Might of Menethil, which is just a beast of a weapon. It's pretty much the best weapon you can get as an arms warrior in vanilla. There's a reason if you ever log onto this server, when you go to the battlegrounds, you see like every warrior and paladin has like starter gear or something, but they bought this mace. It's because that thing just makes them a monster. So I did a huge mistake here. I kind of I don't know what he was doing, but he just mounted off and just kept going, and I couldn't reach him with my entangling roots. So you can see here, it doesn't reach. I have to use so much time to get to him. That was a huge mistake on my part. He gets to me, and things are not looking too good at the moment. Nature's Grasp luckily keeps him there. He doesn't have the trinket. That's very lucky for me. Starfire. Then I line of sight him. Then he line of sights me. I stun him, I root him, but it resists. So this can happen. Your roots can resist, and when they do, it kind of fucks up your setup if that's the strat you were going for. As you can see, I instantly retreat into my travel form. But yeah, I have no dots on him. He hasn't used his intercept. I line of sighted him before, so he didn't use it. Now he has it. He was probably prepared for me doing the travel form. And that's also one thing to note is if the warrior is like experienced with fighting a druid, he will probably expect you to try to kite him and not instantly use his intercept. So you can see he just reaches me and he pretty much just demolishes me in a couple of hits here. So let's take a look at that again. I stun him. I try to root him. Doesn't work. I travel form, he intercepts. And I'm dead. He just takes me. That's how good that mace is. It just takes half your health in one bite. And he still has rage left over. So he, if that root had gone off, I would have had a decent chance to actually win this, but I wasn't so lucky this time. So that's pretty much warrior. You can pretty much see the pattern here. You try to get them off guard out of stealth. If you feel like they know what you're trying to do with entangling roots, if you dueled him before, maybe consider just applying a dot to get him into battle as soon as possible, and then kite him. He will intercept you. Doesn't matter, just use your Nature's Grasp or Bear Form and stun, or just get away from him. As you can see, even though they were decently geared, a lot of them, we still won most of the duels. And again, I can't stress enough, World PvP is a much different beast. You have a lot more things you can use as line of sight. You can just kite forever without kind of having to loop in the ring. Okay, so mages, like I said, I think this is also one of the more easier ones, sorry. So same procedure actually, really. You just apply your dots, you take roots. So here's the thing, they can actually blink out of the roots, but by doing that, they kind of waste their blink. So that's why I like doing it. I just want them to not be able to teleport closer to me. He doesn't use his blink here, but you can see as a mage, your time is a lot more precious than as a warrior, because your health is not the same. So my two very modest dots are doing him in pretty hard right now. You can see I just line of sight him with the campfire, then I outreach him. He doesn't manage to cast off his frostbolt, and you just finish him. Now, this mage wasn't very decently geared. He was mostly in starter gear with some like almost starter epics, so not too much to brag about. But you can see kind of the thing here, like just apply your dots, run away, use or misuse line of sight, and yeah, it's pretty much GG. And then you can see my travel form is actually fast enough that I can outreach him before he managed to cast his frostbolt off, which by that time it's pretty much over. So some people really hate using line of sight in duels. Obviously I use one of the classes that's more dependent on the line of sight method, so it's, for me, you know, I'm gonna be biased by, I think like every means necessary to win is what you have to do, and in turn I never complain about people using engineering or whatever in a duel. Like, if you feel like you want to use that, then that's up to you. But I'm not using engineering, I don't have good gear, I just kind of try to play smart. I would easily have won without the line of sight also on this guy, but again, he's slightly better gear than me, but not by a lot. So next duel, this is also just a starter mage, but this is kind of what I want to show, is if you accept or challenge someone in a duel as you're in feral or cat form, most of them will automatically assume you are a feral druid. So you can see here he's kind of wasting his mana trying to get me out of stealth before I pounce on him, and you can see a lot of mages doing that. Of course, we just go ahead with our regular strat. He's get kind of confused. We line of sight that. He blinks. We line of sight again. You can see he just wasted his cone. And he just kind of panics. Now I just run away. I innervate, I see my mana going low. And it's pretty much over. Okay, so same guy again. This time I actually don't use roots. I just apply and then I run away. So he blinks after, he's caught up with me. Now this is a situation you don't want to be in, because like I said, if you root them first, then they will waste their, most of the time, they will waste their blink on the root. He frost novas. This is kind of the thing you'll see with maybe like less experienced mages, is they will just try, even as the druid, they will just try to keep you rooted. You know, that's the thing about mages, they are so used to controlling people, either put you in place with a frost nova or with a sheep, so they can kind of get away, they can do their big casts and whatever. As a druid, doesn't work that way. You can just use your shapeshifting to break both of those. That's why druids are so good against mages. You kind of flip the control over, so you control the battle. If you control the battle, it's, you should win pretty much every time. You can see here he's doing a lot of damage against me though, because I didn't root him. So I use my nature swiftness. And even if you think that you might have time to do a heal, small or little, doesn't matter. Even if you think you have time, just remember that mages can counter spell you, which will lock you out of that school of magic. So say nature magic, which is our heals. He can lock you out of that for 8 seconds, which in this case would have been pretty devastating. So his Frost Nova actually wears off before I manage to go into travel form. And here you can see I just run around him, and it's kind of a scummy way, but when you do that, there's a decently high chance that they won't be able to cast their magic spells, as you have to be in front of them for them to do that. We just run away. His blink will be up, but we just apply our dots. We use line of sight on him. He kind of goes into his ice block, and this is the time where you give him an ultimatum. You say, okay, just stay in your icy block and I will heal myself, and you will for sure lose the duel, or face me with your 100 health and see what happens. Obviously You can see here he tries to counterspell me, and it seems like it was 10 seconds, not 8, sorry. And we just moonfire, and it's done. So ice blocking doesn't really work for healing class. When you, like mages, when they fight druids, we're a healing class, we can just kind of force him to do something. If you don't have mana in that situation, just wait a few more seconds until combat breaks and you eat. Okay, so let's do a harder target. So this mage is a lot more gear than I am. He has some pretty decent gear. You can see a mix between some Naxxramas, some Anchorage, some PvP gear. It's not best in slot or anything, but it's a lot better than what I have. Still, we should be able to kill him fairly easily doing the same strats. I just want to note that whenever I do these duels, a lot of these people I dueled with like 10 times, so we kind of know each other's tricks. So if people don't know what you're about to do, it's always a lot easier. He still wants to get me out of stealth. He knows by this point that I'm not gonna pounce on him, but he still tries to get me out of stealth. That's fine by me. He can use his mana for all he wants. So there I kind of messed up. I didn't have him targeted, so whatever I tried to do didn't work. I had to stop there, target him, and the only thing I got out of that was a moonfire. But I just line of sight him, didn't really matter. He uses blink, so that's also kind of a way you can sort of bait their blink, is kind of put them in a situation where they feel like they have to catch up with you, like to this bonfire. I just line of sight him. He misses his silence. I don't know if he uses his silence kind of on nothing. I was just moonfiring. I run away. Again, it's kind of odd how mages don't know how Frost Nova is just doesn't work on druids. I still just go. Frost bolts, whatever. We heal up. And this is pretty much the only spell you have to worry about for line of sight. The arcane missiles, I don't know if they do that on the real vanilla servers, but at least on this server, they just go through everything. As long as they connect with you before your line of sight, they cannot be broken. So we just apply our dots again. You can see his health is just wearing down. Again, Frost Nova doesn't matter, but at this point we don't even bother with going out of stealth. You can see I actually killed him there for reals. That can happen on this server. So you can see this mage. He's actually in starter gear just as I am, but he was a much better player PvP wise than the last one. So after we dueled a couple of times, he kind of saw what I was doing and he kind of reacted to that. So what can a mage do to kind of counteract what I'm trying to do here? So you can see the first thing he does, which is actually pretty smart. He goes to kind of the edge of the dueling ring. He knows that I'm gonna come from this side now, which means that either I'm gonna be very close to him behind him, which is not good for me, or he's gonna instantly see me as I go out of stealth. This is very smart, because that will allow him to counter spell or just get away from my my roots. So I don't even bother with the roots. I just put on the moonfire and I get out of there. You can see his frostbolt actually connects. What I should have done there is go further back and not so much strafing. But I just put my dots on. I go behind the pillar or the campfires. He catches up with me because I have the frost debuff. He frost novas me. And again, here he does something really smart. He uses his arcane missiles instead of his frostbolt. If he had used his frostbolt there, I would have been able to line of sight him. But he knew that, so he used that spell specifically so I couldn't line of sight him, which kind of forces me out there to deal with him. I still managed to take him down, but that was because he tried to confront me in a line of sight manner. You can see I didn't use my cooldowns. It was kind of a smart play, but it didn't work out. But if it was a better geared mage, it probably would have, to be honest. So he adapted again. Again, he goes far away. He pretty much knows which angle I'm gonna come from. He tries to use a blizzard. Like, that's one of the things. Like, sometimes I will hide behind something or close to something, so they will have a harder time seeing me. He kind of figured that out, so he tried to blizzard around this area. Again, I just apply my dots. So what he's doing here is actually pretty smart. He's using my own game against me. He doesn't engage, he doesn't follow. When a mage starts to follow and is out of control, they just desperately want to damage you down, you'll have a pretty easy time you'll have a pretty easy time taking them down. But since he's retreating and he's baiting me, he wants me to follow him. You can see that kind of worked pretty good there. Again, he does the same thing, and now he sits down and eats, which means he's gonna pretty much heal and refill mana before I can get to him. It wasn't a huge deal, but it was enough. So if he does this a couple of times and I'm stupid enough to follow him and engage him, I'm gonna wear out my mana and he's gonna pretty much stay at the same level. So here I follow him to keep him in combat. I go out of mana. So this is actually his time to shine. If he had pulled that last bait off a bit better, he would actually win the duel. But all I need, you can see me spamming Moonfire there. All I need, and I know that all I need is just one Moonfire to finish him off, and luckily I got it. But that was actually a really good play. So what you have to make sure of is, if you're in World PvP or in a duel like this, you don't let him control you. You have to not fall for his bait. If he goes and sits down and eats, you do the same. And try not to waste any cooldowns. If you follow him because he's going to eat, then he will just, play your game against you, and that's not what we want. Also, in World PvP, don't let this happen. You can see another starter gear. So this is what I was talking about. Like, he thinks I'm feral. I accepted the duel or I requested the duel as I was in cat form. So he kind of thinks I'm a feral, and he will spend, you can see, a good chunk of his mana. And he actually has a fair bit of mana, but he will spend a good chunk of it just trying to get me out of stealth because he thinks that I'm gonna pounce on him. So we just apply roots. You can see he's very confused at the moment. So he ice blocks immediately to reset because he kind of panics there for a second, wants to reset. So we reset. I didn't use any cooldowns. I come back in stealth. Now he doesn't have ice block, so I'm at a big advantage here. Still, he didn't get the message, I guess. He doesn't know that I'm balanced resto. So he just sits there. Actually get the stun on him from Starfire. He frost bolts. Doesn't reach, we outreached him again. And it's just easy peasy. So that's one way you can actually deal with them. Like, it's kind of scummy again, but you kind of fool them into thinking that you're a feral druid, and you're actually quite the opposite. You can see how I'm typing to him, just in good fun. So, the rogue. It's probably the funnest one, or the most fun to fight against. It's kind of evenly matched. in a duel setting, I think in World PvP and like equally geared, you should pretty much always win against the rogue. Just because you have enough tricks to kind of mess up their setups. But in a dueling sense, where they kind of can reset their cooldowns every time, it kind of becomes a mind game. So it's a lot of fun. And it's kind of like in the middle of the tree of hard to kill classes. You can see this guy was in starter gear, but it was actually the same guy who played the paladin. So this guy was really good, and he had, you know, better characters than the starter characters. He pretty much just played those for like spending time with dueling with me. So obviously what you want to do is apply fairy fire to them as soon as possible. That keeps them out of stealth for a long time. They can't vanish, they can't pretty much do anything. And as long as you keep them out of stealth, it's a lot more doable. Especially if you're like evenly geared. But you know, there was a reason why the game was called World of Roguecraft in vanilla. You know, if they have their cooldowns and they just stun lock you and they know what they're doing, then they can be very hard to beat. I'm not gonna lie. So you can see I won this duel against a starter rogue with his cooldowns. Now we have another duel without cooldowns. So this is what I want to do with this. The rogue is like a whole other opening. I usually start again. I apply the Nature's Grasp before the duel to make sure that I can use it again in the duel. I usually use Barkskin in case they sort of open on me very fast and I get that extra protection. But I always let them open on me, most of the times at least. Because if they catch me in stealth, then I'm pretty much dead. If they catch me in stealth, they stun lock me and they do the whole combo thing, I'm dead. So to be in bear form with tons more armor and a lot more health does make it a lot more manageable. You can see here I'm just walking around. Luckily, what I also try to do is I try to use a demoralizing shout just by running around. It doesn't cost me much, it costs a bit of rage. But what it can do is if they are in range of me, then I will take them out of stealth. This guy I already dueled with a lot of times, so he knew that, he stayed away from me. I just backpedal up the campfire, doesn't really matter, he doesn't have daggers. He opens. So this is why you want to have Nature's Grasp on you, you want him rooted. Because if you use your trinkets to get out of stun and you walk away, you don't want him to follow. What you want to do is jump out of bear form, apply Fairy Fire as fast as possible, and then abolish poison. And the reason for that is, if he has Fairy Fire on him and he knows he can't vanish, the best thing for him to do is to use Blind on you. But Blind is counted as a poison, believe it or not. So if you have abolish poison on you before he does Blind, you can actually take it off you instantly, which messes up his setup. And another thing is you shouldn't face him, because if everything else fails or if it just doesn't want to use Blind, he can gouge you, which also is a stun. But that only works if you're facing him head to head. So we just strafe away. You can see I used my trinket kind of for nothing there, which was kind of a shame. I was a bit too slow in it. So what I want ideally to do here is jump out of bear form, Fairy Fire. But as you can see, he resisted. I have to do it again. But since he doesn't have cooldowns, I didn't use abolish poisons. Because I know his blind is on cooldown. So just to clarify that, this server is like, if you have a currency, you can reset your duels all the time, so reset your cooldowns for your duels all the time. This guy didn't have any of those currencies, since this was like a starter character. Again, we had Nature's Grasp. We Moonfire. As long as you kind of reach this point, it should be okay. So again, you can sort of kite him, which would be your best bet in World PvP, or in a dueling sense, I actually just prefer going into bear form on rogues. As long as I have my dots up and I have a decent amount of health, actually killing them with bear form is surprisingly effective. Obviously, then of course I say that as I'm being kited around by him, but I can stun him, and all my auto attacks does a decent amount of damage to him because he doesn't have a lot of health to begin with, and he doesn't have a lot of armor. So if I just demoralize shout him, I can actually keep doing that for some time. And then when you see I know he's in low health, I have a lot of health, I just pop out and I Moonfire. Of course, a rogue without cooldowns is pretty much a guaranteed win. If they have all their cooldowns, much harder. It's kind of the good and the bad about playing a rogue, you know. Yeah, as you're playing a rogue, you'll see that sometimes it's just, if you have your cooldowns, you're gonna own, and if you don't have it, it's gonna be a much harder time for you to do anything against it. New duel, same thing. Bear form, we put on our defensives. We want this to kind of be wearing out, so it's on cooldown straight away. But this time we're doing a bit different. We're just doing bear form all the way. You can see my PC kind of choked her a bit, but we just straight out of the stun, we stun him. We take our dots on and we go into bear form. And you can see I can take a lot of hits from him actually. So I just jump around. What he should have done here obviously was using evasion. Then he would kind of force me out of bear form to heal myself. But I did a lot of damage as the bear, so whenever I see the moment, I just pop out and use Moonfire to end the duel before he can do more damage. Again, I pretty much do same procedure every time with rogues. I just want them to be rooted. I don't want to be in cat form in stealth. If they find me first, I'm dead. And this rogue is a lot more geared. He has engineering. He has some daggers from Naxxramas. He has PvP set. He has some pieces of the tier 3 set. Some Anchorage things, PvP, like I said. You can see his health is much higher. And his damage is significantly higher. And with engineering. So this is also a case where if he had all his cooldowns, it was a really tough duel. Doable for sure, I won a lot of the duels, but without cooldowns, it's very easy. The same procedure every time. That's kind of the thing, it kind of looks like I'm going down a lot on my health a lot of times, but it's actually, you know, as long as you have your cooldowns or you know that you have mana and they have low health, it's, you know, I don't really get stressed or anything. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna win those duels. So what you can see here, what happened was he said rip, and that's because I managed, like I said, I used my demoralizing shout, and you can see he was close enough for me to hit him even in stealth, so he got out of stealth. This kind of ruins his setup right away, but I faced him, so he gouged me, so he's rooted, I'm gouged. It's a bad situation for both of us. I just run away. I apply Fairy Fire, and he just doesn't really do anything here. He could have blinded me. I didn't have my Abolish Poisons up, but he didn't, so I think he just kind of gave up the whole thing as soon as I got him out of the stealth. But like, it's a very easy way to win. And you can see we're just very easily taken down. So that's the kind of thing that makes Rogue versus Druid pretty much a lot of fun, because it's kind of a mind game. Just like mages want to get me out of stealth, I want to get them out of stealth. Again, this Druid, I go up, I take a bullish poison, he blinds me, doesn't work, I fairy fire him. I root him again. I root him again, I want him there. I want to get a lot of range, I want to use whatever I can use on him. He sprints, I travel for him. But you can see I don't want to leave the area, so I have to turn around, and that was kind of where things started to go downhill. If this was World PvP, I'm very sure that things would have gone differently there. I would just continue to kite him until his sprint wears off, but I couldn't do that, so I have to take some of his damage, wait until Nature's Swiftness makes sense, use that. I root him again. Nature's Grasp luckily doesn't have a lot of cooldown, but I did a very big mistake here. So as you can see, in the midst of all this, I was kind of taken a bit off guard by having to turn around and him catching up to me. So in all that, I didn't apply Fairy Fire to him, but I thought it was. I didn't pay enough attention to it. So what I thought was he was rooted there. I should have turned my camera a bit more and paid attention to it, but I was kind of more paying attention to my healing touch. As you can see, I have the poison on me, so it takes almost 5 seconds to cast. So I was just kind of, okay, I have to either nuke him and run away, or heal myself and bear tank him again. And since running away is kind of hard in this area, just like the last time, I went for the healing. Didn't notice he didn't have Fairy Fire on. So I'm like, oh shit, where is he? But he's in stealth and he's gonna kill me. So as you can see, he does a lot of damage on me without my bear form, and that's because of his insane gear. But the beginning there was pretty much perfect. I just want to take it through that once more. This is ideally, even if he has cooldowns, this is how you should do it. You do bear form, he attacks, he roots, you go out, you have bullish poison, you fairy fire, his blind doesn't work, you root him again, and at this point I'm thinking I won the duel, pretty much. And if it wasn't for that I had to turn around and do the fairy fire thing, probably would have gone that way too, hopefully. Another thing you want to see here is this guy. I dueled a lot with him, and this was we'd been dueling for hours and hours, and he has engineering, so he had the iron grenade which stuns me for 3 seconds. If that hit me here, that would also have been pretty fatal to me. Luckily, I kind of know he's gonna do that, because every time I rooted him, he kind of did that. So you can see how so as you can see here, when I root him, I just walk away, because it takes a bit of time to throw that grenade. So I root him, I walk away, I come back. A lot of times I didn't do that, but this is actually one of the duels where this was later in the day when we had dueled a long time, so I kind of figured out that trick and I started to move away every time I did root him. So it was pretty much a perfect opening for me. I was thinking I won, but there you can see I have to kind of do this U-turn, and he doesn't have to run after me, he can just take a shortcut and get to me right away. Luckily, I got bear form up. I saw where this was headed. I got bear form up pretty fast. Like I said, you don't want to be stunned in your human form. You're gonna die instantly. So I just kind of take him away a bit, kite him a bit, looking for my Nature's Grasp to go off cooldown, heal myself with Nature's Swiftness, And I forgot about Fairy Fire. It was a really good duel, but it's just one of those moments where gear and cooldowns just takes you. You can see there too, I didn't face enough away from him. So he gouged me, he stuns me, and I'm out of bear form. That's a really bad place for me to be. So I stun him, I root him before the stun wears off, and I run behind this thing. The root didn't hold, or he resisted, so I did it again. I go behind the pillar, he can't do anything, he can't iron grenade or anything. So I just stand there and heal up, and then I go and take starfire on him, put my dots on him, run around with bear. As long as you get like a starfire and your dots up, going into bear form is a very good place to be if you have full health. Yes, he's gonna do a lot of damage. You can see him doing a lot of damage to me right now. But we're also gonna wear him down. Unfortunately, I still didn't win. But it was a good effort. Like, you can see how bad my opening was. I almost died instantly because he kind of got me out of bear form. But that's kind of the point of showing this duel, is I easily could have won there if I didn't screw up in the end there. Like you can see with a line of sight behind the campfire, healing yourself, making sure they are rooted. You know, that's the thing about melee classes in vanilla. They don't really have a lot of ways to catch up with you, or a lot of ranged abilities. Most of them, at least. And if he has sprint on cooldown, there's pretty much not so much he can do about it. So it was a good duel. You can see I went from almost no health to full health and actually had a fighting chance. That's kind of the beauty of the druid. You're just so tenacious, you know. Okay, so hunter. So whether a hunter is difficult to kill or not depends on their spec, to be honest. If they are beastmaster, it's going to be much harder to kill them, and if they're marksman, it's going to be a lot easier to kill them. Kind of what you have to watch out for, and you're going to see me screwing up here a couple of times, is they're going to kind of, if you see a hunter running towards you, they're probably trying to set down a frost trap with their kind of feign death frost trap macro. And if you let that happen, the duel can be over pretty fast. Hunters are just one of those good PvP classes. They don't necessarily outshine anyone in PvE, but PvP they have a lot of tricks, and the fact that they're a pet class and that they can spec, use their talents to make that pet really strong, is kind of what makes them hard to kill. You can see this person is pretty geared. He has the best crossbow in the game, pretty much, for a hunter. He has some nice Anchorage gear, some nice tier 2 gear, and then he has some starter shoulders. It's kind of a weird setup, but it was good. It's very good gear. So the way you kind of want to approach the hunters are, if their pet is, if they're beastmaster, their pet can't really be rooted with entangling roots or nature's grasp. They're gonna have this enrage effect, which just takes off all mobility impairing effects and whatever. So the only way to kind of beat that is to use hibernate on them before they enrage. You kind of have to control their pet, and like I said, the only thing that works is really hibernate. So you can see the hunter is just walking around trying to like make my life harder, using some flares. So what I do is I entangle the hunter. I want the hunter to stand still. Which you'll see here in a moment. I don't want the hunter to follow me just yet. Pet will come to me. So as you can see, I start hibernate right away. If I'm behind this pillar, the hunter cannot shoot me. I can hibernate the pet. I don't really have a good footage for this, I think, but because what happened here after a few duels is that he kind of timed his hunter's stun like that, and then he retreated his pet. This was very smart of him. It kind of ruined my whole setup because now I'm stunned, he gets out of roots, and effectively it's a reset. But he got Hunter's Mark on me before I could react, so now my element of surprise is over. He just scatter shots me, he does the freezing trap macro, and by now the duel is pretty much over. He has 2 good gear, he just wears me down pretty fast, and the hunter pet will just come now. And you can see I used Nature's Grasp on the hunter pet, but if he used Enrage, he would just break that CC. But he just ended me before that even happened, so it didn't matter. So this duel was kind of weird. That freezing trap, I assumed that I couldn't see his freezing trap, so I didn't think that freezing trap was actually for me. So that kind of put me at a bad disadvantage here. So I used Nature's Grasp on his owl. This guy was not Beastmaster, he was Marksman, but because of my mistake with the trap, it kind of made things harder for me. And then I walked into him again, and this is what I was talking about. Like, if you walk to him and he's like inviting you, he doesn't move too much, that's probably a bad sign. He kind of wants you to come. Now I'm stuck, can't do anything, my trinket doesn't work on traps. He just moves along, retreats its pet, aim shot. So the thing about hunters, you know, if you know about, yeah, you can see he won there. But the thing about hunters is if you know anything about vanilla hunters, you know that they have like a dead zone. So what I wanted to do was kind of crowd control their pet behind the pillar or behind the campfire. So the hunter couldn't like interrupt me doing that, and then I would walk to the hunter and like stay in their dead zone range and kind of just apply moonfires and stuff. And this duel I just completely fucked up. I got so kind of distracted by the whole hunter trap thing that I just didn't do anything about. I just didn't do the things I was supposed to do. You can see he won pretty easily. Back to the very geared hunter. So what I do here, like, if those things doesn't work, if you cannot get a duel where you can hibernate their pets or get them to stay still, or they just do the whole trap thing, this is another way to do it, and it works surprisingly well for a hunter. You can see he's just running around. I'm just waiting for the good moment, the opportune moment. He doesn't notice me right away, that's what I want. So I just ignore his pet. But he retreats it, he's gonna scatter shot me. And he breaks my roots. So I just Nature's Swiftness right away. And then I kind of Nature's Grasp. And then I like stay in. You can see he was running towards me. That's why I sort of retreated. I didn't want him to trap me. I'm not in his dead zone right now, but since he's moving and trying to get closer to me, I don't need to be. He's not going to do much, and his pet is all the way over there. Actually, I think since the pet didn't enrage, I actually think this guy wasn't, when he wasn't completely Beastmaster. He was like a mix, he said. So that's probably why the pet doesn't enrage out of my roots. But I thought it was. But as you can see, I won that duel. Like I said, as long as you can kind of control their pets somehow. Sometimes you can just ignore it too if you feel like they don't do enough damage. Or if they already enraged, there's nothing you can do about it, then you just have to get closer to the hunter and kind of heal yourself. So, you know, he's just standing there with the old flare and trap thing. I entangle root him, then I go closer to kind of get in his dead zone. Then his pet comes forward and I entangle root again to kind of switch it up. And what this does is allows me to kind of take his pet into a rooted state, and I'm at sort of not too far away from the zone that I want to be in. So you can see this is sort of the zone where he cannot really do anything against me. So he has to run. And he is Beastmaster. So ideally I would have hibernated that pet, or if he was marksman, then it wouldn't really matter. But now I just kind of have to deal with it. I have to deal with this pet gnawing on me while I'm trying to kill the hunter. So you can see at this point I just moonfire spam. I nature's swiftness, heal myself, and then I just moonfire trying to find him, moonfire him. Use all my mana, it's kind of a DPS race. And luckily I won. But since his pet was in stealth, it's a bit harder to do your setup. You kind of have to take account for that you won't necessarily be able to hibernate or whatever. So at this point you just go all in, you keep the pet away for as long as possible, and you just DPS and try to stay either in the gray zone or LOS. And you don't want to take too much time with the hunter, because they have this this spell, this arrow that drains your mana. So if you kind of play around too much with them, it's not gonna go your way. You kind of have to be in their face in that dead zone and just really put the pressure on and sort of hope that your heals and your pressure will kind of do the trick. And there you can see the mage that we killed before. Okay, so paladin. Paladins can be a mixed bag. It's not one that you're necessarily gonna win, but we have some tricks that makes it possible. You know, paladins is actually kind of like, you've seen Lord of the Rings, right? And there's this scene, I'm gonna spoil it for you, so unless you actually haven't seen Lord of the Rings somehow, just mute me at the moment. But it's kind of like in Lord of the Rings when Gandalf fights the Balrog, and then he talks about it later, and he says that he fought him for like 2 weeks, and then he kind of just dies of exhaustion and the damage inflicted right after he defeats the Balrog. And that's kind of how I feel about paladins. You'll be fighting these guys for 2 weeks or for a very long time, and you're just gonna, by those kind of duels, you're just gonna mess up somewhere. This section is gonna be a lot longer than any other class, not because there's more duels, but just because it takes so much longer to actually kill them. So what I like doing with paladins is actually going to stealth cat form, obviously, and then we stun them with pounce, and then we do the rip, just to put another dot and another pressure on them. Sort of what you want to do here is you want to kind of make them waste their mana before you do. It's very hard. They're very kind of mana efficient guys, and they have all kinds of defensives, and they have stuns, and they have the bubble, and you gotta go through a lot of shit before you can actually get them vulnerable. Now this is the worst case scenario, because this is a dueling set where they have all their cooldowns, but that's how it's gonna go. So there's no point of rooting them. It's just gonna waste your mana, because they can instantly cleanse that or purge that or whatever. See, we apply the dot there. Then when he's Then when he's the stun we put him in wears off, he just stuns us. Doesn't really matter, because the thing about paladins is the more damage you do to them, the harder they hit you. So we're gonna, so as long as we don't like do tons of damage, we're actually not gonna have a lot of DPS from them. It usually comes in bursts of big hits that you have to sort of heal through or avoid. But damage-wise, they're not the best. So you can see a lot of the time they're just gonna stand close to me and just be, you know, waiting for them to swing their sword. So there's like 3 ways you can approach this, in my opinion, and it's like, you can see what I'm doing now is just kiting him all over the place. You can see him healing, he's wasting his mana. We just kite. Luckily, travel form doesn't take a lot of mana, and we have inner weight. So in mana fights, we should win. And that's the thing, you have to keep a balance between keeping pressure and, you know, you have to, the health has to go down all the time, but you don't want to just spam moonfires until you're out of mana, because that's going to put you in a bad spot. But if you don't put enough pressure on them, they're just going to wear you down fast. You can see there he used an engineering helmet to kind of catch up with me and stun me. It's okay, we'll just deal with that. You can see his mana is getting really low. He doesn't have much to do. So we just travel form again. And moonfire. You can see that was kind of a close battle, but he's way more geared than I am. And usually I find fighting paladins that are way more geared than I am very hard. Just because they have a lot more mana. They're mana efficient. They have so many abilities. They just take a lot of hits. And once they actually get you in a stun and they have enough, and they have, you know, taken enough damage to actually do a lot of damage to you, things can get really hairy really fast. So again, I wouldn't use my nature swiftness unless it was really necessary. Alternatively, what you can do if you feel like if he's spamming the purge a lot, is actually to use a lower level moonfire. So this is rank 1. If they purge a lot, I will just kind of bait their purge to spend their mana without me spending my mana. This is like 20 mana or something for me to click, so it doesn't really matter too much. They don't really have a gap closer either, unless they throw their Hammer of Justice. Again, pounce, rip, run away, apply dots. He stuns, he does the damage he can do, he heals, he stuns. So we just Nature Swiftness and Nature's Grasp, just to get, I know he's gonna purge it, but it's just to get some headway, and he's gonna waste some mana doing it also. So what I usually like to do here, you can see like in the end there it got a bit hairy. He was doing a lot of damage. He has a very good weapon too, holds it from next Ramas. If you're gonna heal without Nature Swiftness, I wouldn't wait too long. Like if you're at halfway health, you should already be healing. Don't wait until you have 500 or 1000 health left or whatever, because by the time you cast your heals, whether it's big or small or whatever, they will do more damage to you. So actually I like just taking halfway point, I heal. Yes, it's gonna take some time. They're gonna also make it longer by hitting me, but when it goes off, I'm almost at full health again. You can see he spent a lot of mana on his combo, so to speak. So now we just kite him, and we managed to moonfire him before he got the heal off, which was good for us. Okay, next duel, same guy, pretty much the same procedure. We pounce, we rip or rake. And fire dots. This guy doesn't really cleanse too much. It's pretty much just the when he gets rooted. We get a stun there from the starfire, that's good. He casts his hammer, stuns us, he heals. But we are a pretty good spot with our healing. And as you can see, our nature's swiftness is actually on cooldown from the last duel. So we have to do without that. He stuns me. You can see here now, I have to heal. I do a big heal. But as you can see, notice here, he even uses his meteor, but he doesn't do a lot of damage because he just stands there waiting to swing. And that's because, especially with no mana, they don't have any offensive abilities. They only have their auto attacks. Now he's out of mana, but so am I. So what I do, I use what little mana I have to travel form. I eat, I go shadowmeld to kind of be invisible for a second, just to get enough mana to do something. And yes, I know I didn't have them keybound, I just put them there, so it was... I was too lazy to keybind them, so I did the old clicker strats on them. I run around. Ideally, I would have a bit more time eating in shadowmeld, but that's how it goes sometimes. He uses his mana to heal, but we just do the same old dirty trick. We got a decent amount of mana. He has none, which pretty much means we're winning this. The last line of defense he has here, as you can see, is his bubble. So what we do is we just run away. He's gonna use his little mana to heal. Again, we're just gonna do the dirty trick. And now we have the upper hand by a lot. So it's kind of like with any mana class in this game. If they don't have mana, they can't do anything. So if you out mana them or outlast them or do these dirty tricks to kind of get your mana up there, then you should be able to win. Shadowmeld is actually really good for that. It's actually like Shadowmeld is a really good PvP talent. So you can see here now this guy has less health, less gear. I'm just putting a lot of pressure on him. He's using a lot of mana to attack me and to heal himself. His mana is almost gone and this duel hasn't even lasted for 20 seconds. So at this point we just heal and we have the upper hand. So when you level a druid, sometimes some of you maybe know that like when you have to fight an elite by yourself, it's like you put like your auto attack or you put your dots on him and you just heal. It's kind of like paladins are kind of like fighting an elite mob. Again, just to get some leeway on him, we just use the Nature's Grasp. So if you have the mana for it, you can see there I took kind of a gamble. If you have the mana for it, you can sort of gamble on the fact that if you spam Moonfire before he reacts, then he won't do the bubble. Like unfortunately there I was a bit too slow. He did the bubble, I spent mana on pretty much nothing. So we just go away, we eat. He does the same, but that's okay because we're gonna end up with more than him anyway. And he just used his biggest defensive. So we didn't go full, but the important thing is that we have more than him. And more or enough to do something. But it was clever of him to eat stew. Like that's pretty much the best thing you can do if someone tries to outrun you and heal or like eat, you do the same. That is, of course, unless you have full health and they have no health. So you can just see here, it just stands there. You can see how long it takes between each attack he does. That's kind of what makes a paladin bearable, you know. Their damage is pretty low. They get some big hits here and there, but in the end it's just... But as you can see, by now I have to heal too much. I had to heal so much that he actually has a lot of mana left. You can see now he's just auto-attacking me and not using a lot of his mana. He's kind of figured out what to do here. And that's also if you are a mana healing class and you fight against another mana healing class, you don't waste your mana too much. But that's okay, we just kite him until we get our mana back and we finish him off. Okay, same guy, new duel. We just start running before the duel even starts to kind of just make it a bit harder for him. We apply our dots, we turn around, it's a dueling area, so we can't go too much in one direction. I just meme around a bit and hit on him with my staff. Then I start healing. So you can see there he kind of did a lot of damage in one. He kind of blew his load. But after that they're kind of low risk. Like I said, all their damage comes in waves. After they do a lot of damage, they do very little damage. So I just apply a lot of pressure here. I spend a decent amount of mana just trying to wear him down or to end the duel a bit faster. It doesn't really work. He stuns, he heals. So I eat, I shadowmeld. Again, I didn't bind the keys. Doesn't matter, I just run, apply dots. So like, I don't even bother with travel form here. I just punch them with my staff. I'm kind of aware that their damage is gonna come in waves. So... And especially this guy who's not very high geared. His gear is on the same par as me. So... I kind of know what to expect. But you see these duels, you know, he doesn't spend a lot of mana. But these duels are with people that I've dueled with several times. The one duel you're seeing in this video is not the one duel I had with them. I had a lot of duels. So he knows by this point that if he spends his mana too fast, I'm gonna win. So it's kind of a mind game at this point. We have to force each other to use mana. Luckily I'm ahead now. I had innervate, which always helps. He doesn't have a lot of mana. And this is one of the reasons why you want to heal when you're decently, even if you have a lot of health, because if they stun you and they like unleash their combo on you, it's actually, it can be over. And there you can see, like I was talking about, I Moonfire spammed him and before he used his shield, and so I won. So this is was a very good paladin. Starter gear, you can see his name is on starter only. This guy kind of figured my strat out pretty fast. So you can see here I go into bear form. That's one way to attack people. But one thing that I will be very cautious about with using the bear form is, you know, the idea with the bear form is that you use less mana and you can force them to use mana. But if they do enough damage to you to where you have to go out of bear form and heal yourself and shapeshift all the time, you're gonna spend a lot more mana, because shapeshifting into bear and cat cost almost 500 mana, and you can see that's a lot of mana for someone with 4,000 mana. So, which is why, since you're not gonna kill these guys fast anyway, most likely, I find it best to either kite them or just face them. You can see this guy was doing a lot more damage than the other one was, even though their gear is pretty much on par. I don't know paladins very well. I don't know why that is, but he had a lot more pressure on me. You can see I didn't even have time to react. I could have used nature swiftness. I could have done, there was a lot of things I could have done there. But he just hammered me and it was over. So shamans. I don't really have a lot of good shaman footage, unfortunately. And main reason for that is when I did a lot of my recordings the first day, I played a lot of the classes, shaman included. Played for like 5 hours, and then I noticed that somehow I didn't record after all, so I had to do like a new 5 hours of gameplay. And in that day there just wasn't a lot of shamans that would duel with me, to be honest. This was like the one class that I couldn't like find some good footage of. This guy is the same guy as the rogue and the paladin, which is a really good player, and he was kind enough to kind of degrade his character and put on starter gear on him to face me in a duel. And it's a bit of the same deal with shamans as it is with paladins, in the manner that they don't, you know, they have mana and they can heal. So what you want to do is sort of out mana them, and that works for a couple of duels, just like it did with the paladins. But when they smarten up, they kind of figure you out, and what happens is, you know, shamans have a lot higher damage and more pressure, I feel, than paladins, and with their wind fury totems, all that it takes to kind of lose a duel with them is just bad luck. So it's kind of hard with shamans, and you can see he's just the same kind of gear that I have. So what I did here is I want to get the perfect opportunity here. And the thing about shamans too is they can take away your buffs and they can take away their negative buffs, which means that if I root him, doesn't matter, he's just gonna purge, and he's gonna purge me from all abilities that I have. So you can see my buffs would just disappear. That's him purging. So what I do here is actually using Noggenfogger elixir to kind of make him have to press that button more times to use on me, to use purge on me. So I kind of hope that he takes away my Noggenfoggers rather than my buffs. So you can see he just wanted to reset right away. I just used that opportunity to sort of use my elixir, clicking it like a noob, didn't remember where I had it. So as you can see, my buffs are just disappearing one after one, but at least he has to press the button several more times, which kind of lowers his DPS, if only by a little. Do entangling roots after we stun him from bear form. We go in bear form to kind of soak his damage. We heal. And he sits down and eats in thorns. I'm like, what? Is that even possible? Seems like it is. I go into bear form after applying my dots. And I take away his totems. I don't want him to have any more help than he already does. Apply my dots again, run away. And this is kind of the point where I am like, okay, I need to do something quick here. So I just try my best to Moonfire spam, since he has a low health. The one thing you have to be very careful about with shamans is you don't really want to spend too much time doing long casts like Starfall and stuff, because he has a totem. I don't remember exactly what it's called on top of my head now. If it's, yeah, I don't remember exactly. Grounding totem or something. And what that does is, if he puts that out as I'm casting Starfire or some other long cast time spell effect, then he can put that out as I'm doing it, and my Starfire would just be eaten by the totem. Like, that totem makes it so that I target that instead of him. It's really annoying, and this guy was really good with placing them out, so I just couldn't really do anything about it. I just have to like interrupt and take out the totem, and you know, you can see there, since I was kind of hiding, he didn't see me at first, which is good for me. There's no point of rooting him. You can see the last time I rooted him, he just ate, but what they do is they just purge it. So this was a really long duel. You can see in this duel he's gonna conserve his mana a lot more. I'm not. I'm thinking on the same page as he was doing. I was just nuking each other down. So I can see I'm kind of not in a good place here, but luckily my cooldowns, Nature's Swiftness, is resetting. And at this point in time, I've been dueling so much. It was like 300 duels or something across 2 days. So all my tokens were spent. So now I don't have cooldowns for every duel anymore. And you can see I kind of have to make do without that. I just dot him, I run away. That's kind of the thing about shamans, like they too don't really have too much ranged abilities. They have some shocks, some of them which also interrupts your cast, which is really annoying. Have to be careful of that. That's another reason not to do too much starfall and stuff like that. It's better to just apply pressure with whatever dots you can have. So see, I just run away, I eat, I shadowmeld, and he does the same. Like usually a player, like this is the difference between him and a bad player, is he knows what's going on. He's dueled me before. He knows if I'm gonna hit, the best thing he can do is gonna hit. Usually they just try to follow you because he has the upper hand. He thinks that if I eat, it's the end of the world. He's gonna follow me. He's gonna try to catch me in stealth. And by then I will have much more resources to work with, and I can kind of have a chance in the duel. This guy didn't really put up with that. He just, when I ate, he ate. Like I said, he figured me out. And this makes duels much harder for me. So you can see he doesn't see me through shadowmeld. I just apply my dots, and then I run away. But as you can see, Wind Fury takes its toll. He does massive amounts of damage to me already. And I just made a big mistake here because I was thinking that he always kind of shocked me to interrupt me when I was healing, which is how you should do it. That's another kind of thing that Druid lacks without engineering or feral charge. I can stun people in their healing so quickly. He only has to press one button with a short cooldown. So I was thinking he's gonna interrupt my heal. So you can see here I tried. It's kind of embarrassing. I tried to like juke him like 5 times and it doesn't work. So Elemental Shamans. This is actually the only footage I got from Elemental Shamans. Like I said the other day, the first day I wasn't recording. I thought I was, but I wasn't. And I had some really good duels that I wanted to show, and that's, you know, it's really bummed out about that. But this day I didn't really want to spend too much more time, so I've already done like 400 duels to make this video. I kind of just wanted to get on with it and make the video. And what kind of happened is this was pretty much the only duel that, or the guy that I found that was Elemental Shaman on that server in that kind of period of time that accepted a duel with me. And you can see his starter gear and his awareness is not the best, so it's not really a good duel to show. It's not almost worth showing, but I didn't want to make a video without any Elemental Shamans. But like I said, you know, Elemental Shamans are a bit harder to deal with. They are ranged, they can reach you from long places. In World PvP it's easier to kite them, but in a dueling sense it's much harder. So line of sighting them and putting pressure on them is kind of the success that I had with them. You can see he's kind of confused there. He doesn't see me at first. I just line of sight him. He doesn't have a lot of health. Yeah. So elemental shamans, I don't know much about them. I never played them, but from what I heard, they get a lot better later on with better gear for PvP. And they really hit hard. So, and you can see with all the totems and stuff, and they can heal and everything, and they can interrupt you. It can quickly become a nightmare. Okay, so if you ever played a druid before, or to be honest, most of the classes in vanilla, and you went up against a shadow priest, it probably went something like this, where, you know, they just apply their dots to you, they slow you down, they have their shields, and they just nuke you down. You can see how fast my health just goes down, and we've been dueling for like, what, 10 seconds? It's really, and it's a ranged ability too. It's really hard. So the only way I can kind of cheese them, to be honest, is line of sight. If I had engineering, maybe I could do a bit more with stuns and stuff. You can see there, luckily my trinket works on fair. I just keep going around this campfire, applying my dots to him and healing myself. And you can see that I tried to line of sight his mind blast. Unfortunately, he just got it before I line of sighted it. And on top of that, the talent proc went off, so I was stunned. So you can see I went behind here. I'm trying to heal up now, but he has a lot of pressure on me. The only kind of silver lining I can see here is that he has a little mana, so if I can pull this heal off, I actually might have a chance here. Unfortunately, I'm stunned again, and that's the end of me. So yeah, Shadow Priests are one of the best PvP classes. I think Priests and Locks are just insane. They have, you know, they have damage over time abilities, they have fair, they have good defensive abilities, they are ranged. Yeah, it's just insane. And you can see how fast he just nuked me down, and he wasn't even that well geared, you know. This is starter gear Shadow Priest. He probably thinks I'm feral. So what I didn't notice here, actually, honestly, was that he didn't have too much mana. If I did, I would have let him have some time to drink, but he just ran around, so I didn't even think about it. And he probably thought it was going to be quickly over anyway. So what I do, now he notices, I'm like, what happened? I put on my roots, I apply my dots. But honestly, it probably wouldn't have made that much of a difference, because as you'll see by the time the duel is over, he's not out of mana anyway. But why he's trying, but he's spending a lot of time trying to get that mana back. He should have just went after me. So I just LOS, and you know, you can cure the curse, but it only works, only one ability from the Shadow Priest count as a curse, and that's the Vampiric Embrace. Hopefully, or like ideally, it would have been the Shadow Word, but not so. So just make sure to cure that anyway. Somehow there I did abolish poison instead. Probably just a misclick, but I just cheese him. You can see a line of sight, my dots. And this is the thing, that, like, the only good thing about fighting a Shadow Priest is you rarely see them go out of shadow form to heal. Like, it's this kind of Shadow Priest attitude that I found, that they ride and die on their Shadow Priest identity. They don't want to abandon that shit and start healing. They will nuke you down and shield themselves and stuff. They will not waste time on healing. Probably, maybe they should have sometimes, but I can respect the commitment. You see, it wasn't the best duel, but it was one of the few ones where I actually won, to be honest. Here you can see another duel. I start with roots. I just apply dots. He follows me, and like there's so many procs with him stunning. It's so annoying. And you can see it, you know, Shadow Priests are extremely powerful because their shield is so powerful, right? So you can see like my damage, my dots almost went off before the shield was even down. So even though they don't have a lot of health, it goes a long way. And you can see here he's just nuking me down. I should heal before, but yeah, it didn't really matter too much. And it was just, you know, that laser beam. It's just that's the thing, you know. You can see this guide, you know, I'm doing a lot of work to get these kills, and Shadow Priests are one of the easiest classes too, I feel like, in doing duels. They just like when they are buffed, they're just ready to go, you know. They no ridiculous setups. If you line of sight them, they will just scold you for it. They don't need that stuff. They just want to dot you and nuke you down, and it's very easy to do. It's very easy to pick up and do. I'm not saying necessarily that druids are the hardest, even though, and I don't only play druids, it's not like my class or anything. I like the class, and I play warlock and shadow priest too. And in my opinion, I just feel like shadow priest is the easiest, warlock is probably in the middle ground, and then for me druid is just a bit harder to do, just because it's like different techniques for every class almost, and it requires a lot of setup, it requires line of sight, it requires kiting, and it requires cooldowns. So it's, without engineering and stuff, it can be really hard to do. I root him, apply my dots, same as always. Unfortunately, he can also put his dots on me. The difference is he has a shield, I don't. His dots does more damage than mine, so I have to spend a lot of mana just healing and stuff. Whereas he can just kind of chill there. You can see now he's trying to mana burn me, but at this point I'm just line of sighting him. And you can see the only 2 duels I won in this video was line of sighting them. That's pretty much the only way I can do it, to be honest with you. Like in World PvP, yeah, you can kind of kite them, but to be honest, their dots does so much more damage than yours, and they can shield so often. So, and if they really want to, they can just go out and heal anyway. So it's one of the harder classes to fight for sure, but that's not exclusive to Druid. Shadow Priests are just monsters in PvP. It's really hard to fight against. You can just see here, use my trinket on fair, I go behind pillar. I actually used cat form there instead of travel form, which was a mistake because I used more mana. But luckily I've survived long enough for him to almost have no mana. I heal myself, I make sure that he doesn't go out of combat. He kind of sees the writing on the wall here and wants to eat something. I don't really want to let him do that because I worked really hard to get this far and my cooldowns are down. And this is kind of an exception to what I said about you eating as well. If they have no mana and you have some mana, perhaps you should chase them, sort of to make sure that they don't have any mana. You can see here I'm just writing, I'm eating, it's just like a ridiculous duel, to be honest, and he's really upset. I heal again, I dot him, I dot him again. So yeah, obviously this is not something that you're gonna do in battlegrounds, because you know we've been fighting for so long and it's gonna go for a while longer. So by the time this duel would be up, like his mates or my teammates would probably come a long time ago and help. This is strictly a duel and world PvP thing. So he's starting to wand me. I again line of sight him. I don't really want him to wand me because that's the way he can do damage without mana. So I have to line of sight him constantly. I just sort of have to deal with his dots for now. I don't have any mana, but so doesn't he, and but I have more life than him. So there I do Nature's Grasp to kind of get him stuck. I want to break combat, I want to eat. And finally, I see like the end of the tunnel here. He has little mana, little health, and I just got full health. So yeah, that was a really long duel. He wasn't really that happy about it. Hey, that's how it goes. Like I said, don't play this spec or this class if you wanna make friends in WoW by dueling. It's not gonna happen. Okay, so warlocks. If there's one class worse than Shadow Priest, it's warlocks. They are, in my opinion, just a perfect PvP class. It's not the easiest to play, not the hardest to play, but they just have so much utility. Like, name whatever utility you can think of and they pretty much have it. They have fair, they have stuns, they have dispels, they have different kind of CCs, they have heals via their health stones, and they have shields, and they can silence you. It just depends on what pet they have, and it's ridiculous. And in world PvP they just have soul stones on top of that. And you know, in PvP I kind of always prefer damage over time abilities, because that means you can do other stuff while you damage them, which is really good. It takes a bit longer time, but their dots are so powerful anyway. So it's kind of like, what kind of warlock are you playing against? Like, usually you'll see them either use a Voidwalker for PvP, or a Fellhound, or a Succubus, and they all have different strengths. Honestly, as this kind of spec in Druid, I actually prefer him not to have Voidwalker, because he can sacrifice it for a shield that's really strong and my damage is really low. I don't really want him to have more health than necessary, especially since he has health stones and he just does a lot of damage, so I have to keep myself healed all the time. So either the Succubus or the Fellhound is actually best for me. And the reason for that is he can't sacrifice it, but I can actually control that one. So the sacrifice on the Voidwalker he can use from any range whatsoever. So me rooting that thing in the other side of the duel area doesn't matter. It's just there to be sacrificed. A Fellhound can eat my buffs. He can silence me. It's really annoying, but at least I can control it. And the same with the Succubus. Probably what he's going for here, as you see a lot of warlocks do, he wants the Succubus to make me sleep, and then he can kind of walk away and do like a big the fireball, what it's called, like Pyroblast, Soul Blast I think it's called. So I just root the Succubus instead of him, and then I apply my dots, I LOS him, I whatever curses I can take off, I use the curse thing, and then I just nuke him down. So he was a starter lock and not a very good one. So this was like one duel where, you know, this is not gonna happen a lot. He was not so good. You can see his shadow bolt did do a lot of damage, but the real worry I have is always gonna be fair and dots and stuff, especially with my trinket on cooldown. If he faired me, that would be kind of devastating. Whatever curses you can use, or whatever curses he uses, you should try to purge. You can see there he was kind of not so... He's probably new to the class. He kind of put first one curse on me and then another. But yeah, that's best case scenario. And I think that was the only duel I won versus a warlock. Like, warlocks are so ridiculous. If you log onto this server, you'll see naked warlocks standing around dueling and killing like best in slot characters like rogues and stuff. They are that insane. If you know what you're doing with them, they are insane. A lot of the people that I dueled here, like the best in slot warrior and stuff, I dueled on multiple characters, warlock being one of them, and the warlock is so much easier to actually win than on the druid, even though the warrior is actually the class I'm supposed to beat as the druid. And you can see, if you're wondering what all this is in the background, it was kind of like a bug on the server where every time I put entangling roots on someone, this thing happened. So all this kind of green smoke and those roots sticking up, it's just like a visual bug from all my duels. This was like from day 1 or day 2. So what do you see here? I tried to go behind the pillar. Unfortunately, he's a bit too close, but I want to entangle root his pet. If he was a bit faster on it, he could have silenced me, but he didn't, luckily. So then I just want to like purge myself, and then I use my trinket on fair. I walk away. I want to get away from his pet. And by now I've actually done a lot of damage on him, but unfortunately he has health stones and stuff. You're gonna see that come into play in a second. I use my nature swiftness, and now I'm gonna use nature's grasp. I could have done that before, but I like to save it for the second time, because then I don't have to stop and worry about it. I don't want this dog to be on me whatsoever. If I have to heal, he's gonna silence me. Yeah, it's just a bad time. So I need to make sure this dog is away from all the times. That's why I use the nature's grasp the second time after he breaks his first root. And there you can see also I use abolish poison. It's probably another misclick. I have like Q and shift Q. I probably should change those around. So I try to nuke him down. I try to LOS him, but that thing just goes over. Drain life just goes over through the pillar, and then he fares, and it's over. So that's kind of the way of thinking here is you have to LOS him enough or stay at such a distance that he cannot fare you. Because you can use your trinket once, but the next time it's pretty much game over. If he fares you, applies your dots, and like gets the shadow bolt off, and you know it's gonna be a tough comeback. And here you can see pretty much a full tier 3 warlock. There's no chance in hell I could ever win this fight, but here you can just see kind of my thought process of fighting warlocks. They are just the hardest class for me, bar none, to beat. So I'm gonna abuse a lot of line of sight here. Again, Fellhound is up. I want to keep that thing away. I try entangling rooting it. As you see, he resisted. That's very bad for me. So I instantly try to use the nature's grasp to kind of make sure that he stays behind this pillar. Then he resists again. I'm like, oh shit. So how unlucky can you be? So at this point I just try to kite him around the campfire, putting my dots on him. The only thing he can use at this point is drain life, because that's the only thing that goes through. So I used that moment to root his dog, and luckily the last time it works. You can see that he was trying to fair me, but my travel form is pretty fast, so I can actually get it out of his range before the fair goes off, which means that I can go behind this pillar and start healing. But my mana is taking a big hit, so I have to use Innervate here in a second. Again, just applying my dots. He's draining life. Only thing that works. I use the opportunity to entangle root. I heal again. And then I transform. I remove the curses that I can. But now I did a mistake. I went out of the pillar, he fared me, and you can see pretty much one shadow bolt takes half my health. So at this point you can see there's no way I could ever have won this duel. If he went out of mana, you could just life tap. If he went low on health, you could just health stone. It just wasn't going to happen. And at tier 3 warlock, you can ask anyone. It's just sort of aids to fight against, unfortunately. Like, I don't want to oversell the warlock. I'm not saying that they're invincible or anything, but damn, they're hard to kill. And if they outgear you, there's few classes that can like stand up to them. Yeah, so that was my druid class video, or druid PvP guide, more so to speak. And I hope you enjoyed. As you can see, there is some work that you have to put in here. Like, you have to click buttons in the right order. But you know, I also play warlock, and just the pressure of pressing the right buttons at the right time is much higher, I feel like, on the druid than on the warlock. So that's why I kind of find it harder. But it's also a lot of fun, though probably not for everyone. But if you actually watch the whole thing and you plan on playing a druid, then thank you, and I wish you all the best. And if you liked the video, then